It is an election year, and many citizens feel anxious about America's future, expressing dissatisfaction with the nominees, healthcare, and the economy. John Burke, CEO of Trek Bicycles, addresses these frustrations head on in his book, A Bold Plan for America, offering nonpartisan solutions. Well, John joins now from Wisconsin. And John, we're happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Look, it's an increasingly an important topic, especially as we get closer toward the 2024 election. What do you think is the biggest priority for voters heading into November?
I think what the biggest priority for voters should be is to have a leader who has an actual plan. And I think what we're stuck with right now are two leaders who are trying to make voters happy. We have some significant issues in this country, whether you have the national debt, whether you have health care, whether you have gun violence, the list goes on and on. And we haven't had leaders address these issues. And I think that's what we need, is we need somebody who can have an adult conversation with the American voter.
And do you see a candidate who can do that in the pool?
Well, I think it's possible. I mean, there's a long time to go between now and the election. I think you could have both candidates. I mean, both candidates could have that conversation. It's whether they'll make a choice to have it or whether we'll continue to see spending a lot of money and dumbing the American people down with a bunch of goofy ads.
We showed your book at the top of the segment, and I have a copy here down at the stock exchange. So 14 nonpartisan solutions based on the facts. John, let's start with the first solution. What is it?
You know, to me, the first solution is to have a high-performance government. This country has it has a proud tradition of success, of leadership. And I think we've seen a decline over the last 30 years of the performance of our government. And so we have people running for the highest office in the land. And I think people need to say, this is what I'm going to do to have a high performance government. But in my mind, the first issue is that choice. Yes, we're going to have a high performance government in this country. We're going to have the best government in the world. And this is specifically what I'm going to do in order to make it happen. And I go through that in the book, some really simple, straightforward ways that don't cost money that we could have an amazing government. It is possible. And I think the key is good government matters. Government touches everybody's lives. It matters.
Mm-hmm. Wisconsin historically is a swing state. You're joining us from Wisconsin today. What have you been hearing on the ground there?
Frustration. You know, I think people are frustrated with the choices. I think people are frustrated with the messaging. And that's where I get back to, how about if we, instead of trying to divide the electorate, instead of trying to fire people up over wedge issues, how about if we had the candidates move towards, I'm going to rally people around the issues that matter, the future of our country, how we can truly be an amazing country. And the way we can do that is to tackle big issues like the national debt, like the healthcare system. These are big issues.
I'd like to get your take on debt and the deficit, because I did see a headline today that it is a top concern. It's becoming a growing concern, especially as November approaches. But in all fairness, it's been a concern and it's been an issue for a while. How should leaders approach that?
Well, I think, we're $34 trillion in debt. The budget that the president just proposed shows a $1.7 trillion deficit as a starting point. And I think we have to set a priority, and there's a basic question, which is, do we want to have a stable financial future as a country? Because right now, we are not going down that path. If we want to have a stable financial base for this country, we need to cut expenses and we need to raise taxes. And I go through what all of those options are, but where the big money is on the expense side, it's in healthcare, it's in defense. That's where it's at. You take a look at the revenue side, there's plenty of opportunities to increase revenue in this country. And I got to tell you, a more sound financial footing for this country is good for business.
Let's talk about some of the ways that you think the government should look to raise revenue, because for our viewers, that probably most immediately impacts them in the form of higher taxes. What do you want to see taxed in order to take care of the deficit?
Well, I think an easy place to go to is Social Security. You can scrap the cap. Right now, people pay 6% on their first $140,000 or so of income. And over that number, you pay zero. And you have a lot of very wealthy people in this country who pay very little in Social Security taxes. If you scrap the tax, there's $190 billion right there. And, we can't have this simplistic thinking that you can cut taxes and get rid of the ridiculous government spending. We need to go after government spending. We need to take a look at all expenses, and we need to raise revenue.
So what I'm hearing is that you think doing away with the Social Security tax. Is that correct?
No, I would have the Social Security
You would
tax.
have the Social Security tax.
Absolutely. And I would scrap the cap so that everybody pays the 6.2% on all of their income.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I was hearing that properly.
You got that one. The second way you can do it is, let's just take a look at corporate taxes. It's at 21%. But it's at 21% minus all the loopholes. We have a tax system that is 6,900 pages long that nobody understands. Take that tax code from 6,900 pages, make it 10 pages, get rid of all the loopholes, and just have companies pay 21%. Don't have the government pick winners and losers.
I wanted to go back to healthcare, John, because you had mentioned that as a key area that you'd like to see reined in. Specifically, what do you want to see when it comes to healthcare in America?
Well, here's the situation we have in America. If you just put a headline on it, is we have the most expensive healthcare system in the world by almost 2x, and we deliver the worst results. Of the 57 richest countries, we are number 55. We keep finishing last, and we keep doing the same thing. We spend 18% of our GDP on healthcare. The next highest is Germany, and they spend 12. If you live in Italy, you will live 7 years longer than if you live in the US. Our government is focused on the wrong thing. We can substantially bring costs down, and we can increase the quality of years that our citizens have. We just need to change our focus away from spending money to how do we create healthier Americans? And we can do that. It can be done.
Look, for quality of life, I think many Americans would be on board with that as well, John, considering what we've been through the past 4 years of the pandemic. We appreciate you joining from the Midwest, Wisconsin. That's John Burke, CEO of Truck Bicycle, and the author of A Bold Plan for America, which is available now.